My name is Douglas Reeves, and I'm a 47-year-old financial systems analyst at Apex Global in Charlottesville, Virginia. One Wednesday morning, while meticulously reviewing fraud prevention algorithms for a major client, my life took an unexpected turn. A text message arrived on my phone from my wife, Evelyn. It simply stated, "I'm filing for divorce. I've met someone else." She'd been at a marketing conference in San Antonio, a 3-day event, she claimed. A standard business trip. "I've already transferred our retirement savings into my personal account. The house is yours. I no longer require it." I carefully set down my coffee mug, accessing my banking application on my phone to examine our balances. Something felt amiss, though not quite what Evelyn suspected. My response was concise. "I hope you're happy." 7 words. No argument. No pleading. Simply the end. The following hour was consumed by observing account activity across my various monitoring dashboards. Every shared financial account, retirement, investments, emergency funds, even the checking account Evelyn believed was solely hers, was integrated into a sophisticated monitoring system I'd designed and implemented myself. Evelyn's unauthorized transfers immediately triggered multiple fraud detection protocols. The system was devoid of sentimentality, entirely indifferent to emotional factors like marriage or separation. The system registered a substantial sum being moved without the necessary dual-party verification. Consequently, federal anti-fraud safeguards automatically engaged. Account review initiated. Deposits frozen pending investigation. I remained calm, neither celebrating nor showing any visible reaction. Instead, I calmly closed the alerts and returned to my work. Someone else's financial stability needed my immediate attention. Evelyn's phone would soon be bombarded with messages, the reality of her actions soon dawning on her. The system, I knew, showed no compassion for poor judgment. I'd observed countless accounts frozen during investigations into suspect transactions. Money, I reflected, is impervious to romantic entanglements, betrayals, or convenient timing. Money adheres to specific rules, and Evelyn had decisively broken every single one. We'd been married for 23 years, high school sweethearts from Lynchburg. Even then, I was the numbers guy, calculating batting averages for the school's baseball team, meticulously tracking our senior class fundraising efforts down to the last penny. Evelyn was the social butterfly, a natural marketing professional, charming, persuasive, constantly networking. "You're excessively cautious with money," she would frequently comment after I'd meticulously double-checked our tax documents. "Someone has to be," I'd invariably reply. "Conferences in Denver, seminars in Seattle. Always networking, always for the company." The warning signs were subtle, like a persistent fog gradually obscuring a clear horizon. 6 months prior, she'd ceased inquiring about retirement projections. 3 months ago, she'd obtained a new credit card without prior discussion. 2 weeks before her trip, she'd remarked our spare bedroom was overly cluttered, asking, "Who visits us anyway?" My sister had even commented on Evelyn's aloof demeanor at Thanksgiving. But Evelyn wasn't stressed. She was meticulously planning. While I maintained our comprehensive financial tracking system, a system born from a previous client's multi-million-dollar loss due to an audit failure, she'd been studying it, searching for blind spots. However, my system was meticulously designed without any. Every account was meticulously linked, every transaction monitored, not from a lack of trust, but from a professional habit honed from years of thwarting client fraud attempts, a deep understanding of how money flows when those involved wish to conceal its trail. The night before her trip to San Antonio, she displayed an unusual fascination with our retirement fund balances. "What's our total combined balance?" she'd asked during dinner. "Approximately $950,000, I responded. "Why the sudden interest?" "Just curious," she replied. Now that curiosity made perfect sense. She was plotting her escape. I considered contacting her mother, her closest friend, Susan, or my own parents. But what could I possibly say? "Your daughter attempted to steal our retirement savings and was thwarted by my fraud detection system." It sounded absurd, like a plotline from a melodramatic television series. Instead, I prepared my dinner, watched the evening news, and checked the alerts one last time. The transfers remained frozen. The fraud investigation would take 5 to 7 business days to resolve. 30 a.m. on Friday. "Nathan," Evelyn began, her voice laced with the subtle tension I recognized from conference calls when presentations went awry, controlled panic masked as mild irritation. "My card isn't working." "What's your balance?" I asked. "Zero," she replied. "How is that possible?" "I transferred the funds," she said. "Right. About that," I responded, listening to her inhale deeply. Silence. "What did you do?" she finally asked. "Nothing," I answered honestly. The fraud detection system flagged the unusual transfers from our protected retirement accounts. Federal regulations necessitate a review for substantial withdrawals lacking proper joint authorization. More silence. How long will this take? She asked. 5 to 7 business days. Potentially longer if further issues arise, I replied. She ended the call. I sat in my home office, examining the fraud alerts, sipping my coffee. A fundamental shift had occurred within me. It wasn't anger, not precisely betrayal, but clarity. For 23 years, I diligently guarded our financial future, saving conscientiously, investing wisely, building systems to proactively identify and prevent problems. And the woman to whom I devoted all this effort had chosen to abscond with everything. But the financial loss wasn't the most painful aspect. It was the clinical efficiency of her betrayal. A text message. A series of swift transfers. A farewell, as impersonal as concluding a business transaction. I reviewed our investment portfolio. Excluding Evelyn's unauthorized transfers, our retirement accounts remained secure. The house, purchased 5 years prior for $350,000, was now valued at approximately $600,000. My modest stock holdings, our savings bonds, everything was intact. All protected by protocols I'd established during her numerous networking trips. File immediately. Document everything. The attempted financial impropriety will work in your favor. I filed the divorce papers Monday morning. Simple documents, no request for alimony, no division of unaffected assets, simply a divorce. The house remained in my name. I hadn't touched our shared checking account. I left the remaining $4,000 untouched. A parting gift, if she wanted it. By Tuesday, reality settled. I wasn't vengeful, never had been, but I wasn't naive either. The very systems I'd constructed to protect our clients at Apex Global had also protected me. Banking algorithms are unconcerned with marital vows. They respond to patterns, authorization, and regulatory compliance. And Evelyn had violated every single rule, mistakenly believing herself clever. I resumed my work, ate lunch at my desk, reviewing fraud cases. The irony wasn't lost on me. The weekend arrived, and I cleared out Evelyn's belongings from the spare room she'd criticized, donating her old books, boxing up photographs, not out of anger, but practicality. The life I'd known had ended with a text message. But the systems I'd implemented remained steadfast. Sometimes the most effective strategies are the ones you hope you'll never require, and sometimes, they save you without requiring any effort on your part. Evelyn retained Carol Miller as her legal counsel. I knew Carol from community gatherings, always the one discussing loopholes and legal tactics. They filed a motion alleging I deliberately orchestrated the account freeze. Your husband leveraged his financial expertise to sabotage marital assets, the paper stated. I consulted with my attorney, Richard Carter at Summit Legal, a former banker himself. He reviewed the motion and chuckled. They're employing a bold strategy, attempting to claim misconduct when the fraud alerts are automated system responses, not manual actions, he remarked, shaking his head. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Meanwhile, Evelyn called the house 17 times on Sunday night. I finally answered. Nathan, she pleaded, you need to contact the bank. Tell them the transfers were authorized. I'm stranded. Where are you stranded? I asked. Phoenix. I'm staying with friends, she replied. Phoenix isn't San Antonio. Silence. Then it's complicated, she admitted. I'm sure it is, I responded. Did you contact your conference organizer, your supervisor at Sterling? I inquired. Don't start, she snapped and disconnected the call. Monday brought unexpected developments. My fraud monitoring systems flagged unusual activity. Evelyn had attempted to obtain new credit cards using our shared address. 3 applications in 2 days, all declined due to the pending fraud investigation. She was ensnared in a financial predicament of her own making. Inaccessible funds, frozen credit, travel limited to whatever cash she possessed. On Tuesday, Carol called me personally. This situation is escalating, Nathan. Your wife needs basic living expenses. She can utilize the joint checking account. There's $4,000 available. That's hardly adequate, I replied. It's the amount we've always maintained for emergencies. She considered $950,000, a reasonable sum to transfer without discussion. She disconnected the call. Wednesday revealed unexpected information through an unlikely source. David Miller, Evelyn's boss at Sterling, called expressing concerns. Was Evelyn truly at the San Antonio conference? HR has no record of her registration. I considered lying, shielding her. You'll have to ask her. She hasn't responded to my messages, I replied. We've also observed irregularities in her expense reports, he added. My stomach lurched. It wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was professional misconduct as well. I can't comment on that, I responded. The fraud investigation broadened. Bank representatives contacted me directly. Sir, we've uncovered multiple unusual transfers between corporate and personal accounts over the past 18 months, all originating from the same workstation IP address. Evelyn hadn't merely stolen from us. She'd been systematically diverting company funds. My meticulously planned life shattered completely. Every cornerstone I'd relied on, marriage, trust, fundamental honesty, seemed compromised, but I hadn't driven her to crime. I'd simply built systems that exposed her crimes when they occurred. On Thursday morning, Carol filed an emergency motion for Evelyn's living expenses. The judge scheduled a swift hearing for Friday. I methodically prepared, printing bank statements, fraud alerts, historical transaction patterns. My financial training took over. Evidence trumps accusations. The night before the hearing, Evelyn texted, "I'm sorry it came to this." I didn't respond. Apologies following attempted theft felt hollow. Friday dawned cold and gray. At the courthouse, I saw Evelyn for the first time since her supposed conference departure. She appeared smaller, paler. "Why?" she whispered in the hallway. "Why? What?" I responded. "Why did you notice? Why did the system work? Why did you try to take everything?" she asked. She had no answer. The hearing lasted 20 minutes. The judge reviewed the fraud reports, noting the automated nature of the account freezes, ruling that access to the joint checking account was sufficient for her basic needs during the investigation. Evelyn left empty-handed. Her trap had sprung on her instead. The following Monday, an unexpected visitor arrived. Mark Jenkins, an investigator from the Federal Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, appeared at my office. "Mr. Reeves, we've discovered evidence of systematic fraud involving your wife and several corporate accounts. We require your expertise." "I'm not involved," I stated. "We're aware," he replied. "That's why we need your assistance." Your personal fraud detection system flagged patterns we overlooked. Over coffee in our conference room, Mark revealed the full scope. Evelyn hadn't acted alone. Robert Davis, another executive at Sterling Marketing, had collaborated in establishing a complex network of transfers. They'd been diverting corporate marketing funds into personal accounts for almost 2 years. Your system generated multiple alerts that prompted us to audit their entire division, he stated. "How much?" I asked. "A preliminary estimate suggests $2 million across numerous accounts," he responded. I felt nauseous. While I diligently monitored our personal finances, my wife had orchestrated a significant corporate embezzlement scheme. The betrayal extended far beyond a failed marriage. "What happens now?" I asked. "A federal investigation. Your personal accounts are being separated from this business fraud case. However, we need documentation, proving your lack of knowledge or complicity." I provided everything: tax returns, personal financial statements, the complete audit trail of my tracking systems. Every piece of evidence demonstrating I'd developed these protocols for protection, not to facilitate theft. Evelyn texted that evening. "They're alleging federal charges. They believe I stole millions." I didn't respond. What could I say? Tuesday brought further revelations. Our real estate agent, John Carter, called regarding unusual inquiries. "Someone's been inquiring about listing your house. A pre-approved cash buyer, offering $350,000. They claim to represent you and your wife. $350,000. The original purchase price 5 years ago." Robert Davis had made these inquiries. The pieces fell into place. Evelyn and Robert hadn't merely stolen money. They'd planned to purchase our house at its undervalued price, through a straw buyer, then resell it at market value, pocketing the difference. A complete exit strategy, masked as a legitimate real estate transaction. On Wednesday, I met with Detective Susan Miller, from the Charlottesville Financial Crimes Unit. She confirmed the pattern. They targeted properties owned by corporate employees, creating artificial market pressure to force below-market sales. Your system detected transfer anomalies that uncovered the entire scheme. She remarked. "How many victims?" I asked. 12 families so far." She replied. "Your case provides the clearest evidentiary trail we possess." I thought of those 12 families, people like me, who trusted, who planned carefully, who followed the rules while others sought ways to circumvent them. On Thursday, Evelyn's attempt to access the frozen funds through an emergency court order failed. Her lawyer requested a meeting. "Your client needs to prepare for federal indictment," Richard Carter explained. "The fraud investigation has expanded beyond marital assets." Carol seemed distraught. "Federal charges, wire fraud, conspiracy, potential RICO charges. If they establish an ongoing criminal enterprise, your wife faces significant prison time, not only for stealing from you, but for the systematic theft from her employer and the coordinated property fraud." That evening I forwarded all my financial documentation to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Every fraud alert, every monitoring log, every piece of evidence my systems had gathered. I hadn't built those systems for retribution. They'd exposed a crime far exceeding personal betrayal. Justice doesn't stem from anger. It arises from facts, patterns, in systems designed to uncover the truth. And sometimes the truth destroys more than just marriages. 7 a.m. when transfers exceeded preset thresholds. No human intervention was necessary. The prosecutor appreciated the technical precision. "Did you ever access your wife's accounts without authorization?" he asked. "No," I replied. "The system monitored joint accounts only. I designed it to detect unusual patterns in our shared finances." 2 hours of testimony followed, detailing every alert, every security protocol, how the system differentiated between normal and suspicious activities. Evelyn's potential sentence became increasingly clear. The U.S. Attorney's Office outlined the charges: multiple counts of wire fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. 20 years minimum if convicted. After the testimony, I drove straight to my office at Apex Global. My team lead, Sarah Chen, had been fielding calls all week. Federal investigators required a complete systems audit of everything Evelyn had access to. We spent Friday converting 3 years of financial data. Every login, every transaction, every access point Evelyn had used to orchestrate her scheme. "None of us saw this coming," Sarah commented quietly. "Nobody did," I responded. "That's precisely why these systems exist." The weekend brought unexpected serenity. Federal investigators seized Evelyn and Robert's phones, laptops, and external drives. The evidence mounted hourly. Sunday afternoon, Carol called. "Nathan, Evelyn wishes to provide information about larger financial crimes. She's prepared to cooperate fully in exchange for a reduced sentence." "That's between her and the prosecutors," I replied. "They might inquire about marital reconciliation as character witness material." I considered this carefully. "Inform them our marriage ended when she attempted to steal our retirement funds. The rest is merely numbers," I responded. On Monday I received formal notification that the investigation regarding marital assets was concluded. All retirement funds would be returned to their original accounts. The joint checking account would be divided equally. 4,000, half of what Evelyn had believed she required for basic living expenses. "You never intended to be caught any years or testify against Robert and his network." That evening I cleared out Evelyn's office in our home. Boxes of marketing materials, files, computer printouts. In the bottom drawer I discovered a notebook containing real estate prices, property assessments, a list of 12 addresses, targets, our house among them. She'd meticulously planned, just as I would have, but for theft rather than security. Thursday afternoon, the divorce proceedings resumed. Her incarceration complicated matters. "Your wife is willing to concede all marital property," her new public defender stated,
"in exchange for your testimony regarding her character."
"I've already testified about what I know. The financial systems, the fraud alerts," I replied. "She's requesting personal testimony about your marriage." I considered this 23 years the person I believed I knew. The schemes I never suspected. "I will testify about what I observed. Nothing more," I stated. Richard filed papers confirming the terms. The house remained mine. Retirement accounts were restored. Modest alimony was rejected. Federal sentencing rendered it irrelevant. Friday I received a handwritten letter from jail. I became obsessed with money, seeing how easily it could be manipulated. Robert claimed the systems could be circumvented. "I believed him over you. I'm sorry." I placed the letter in my file cabinet. Evidence of admission, not forgiveness. The systems I built continued to function, automated, impartial, exposing crimes while marriages crumbled. The federal trial lasted 17 days. I testified twice, first about the financial systems, then about my marriage. "Did you ever suspect your wife's professional activities?" the prosecutor asked. No, I trusted her, I replied. When did that trust end? When my fraud detection system detected her attempting to transfer our retirement funds without authorization, I responded. The jury listened intently. Evelyn appeared smaller, paler each day, designer clothing replaced by standard jail attire. On day 12, Robert Davis cracked, accepting a plea bargain, full cooperation in exchange for 7 years instead of 25. He detailed everything: marketing budget, embezzlement, property manipulation schemes, a network of executives across 3 states. Evelyn's role as coordinator. Ironically, she'd learned financial diligence from observing me, using it for criminal purposes rather than protection. The prosecution played recorded calls. Evelyn's voice was clear. Nathan's too engrossed in his own systems. He'll never examine my work accounts. My wife of 23 years, wagering on my respect for boundaries to facilitate her crimes. Day 17 brought the verdict. Guilty. 12 counts of wire fraud. 8 counts of conspiracy. 2 counts of embezzlement. Sentencing was set for 6 weeks later. I drove straight home after the trial. No press conferences. No statements. The financial system had fulfilled its purpose, exposing the fraud, providing evidence, enabling justice, not revenge, simply consequences. 2 months after sentencing, Evelyn received 18 years. Robert 9. I sold the house for $650,000 after fees, more than sufficient to begin anew elsewhere. I remained at my position at Apex Global, enhancing my fraud detection systems, incorporating features specifically designed to detect corporate embezzlement schemes. These updates could save other companies millions, Sarah reported. That's the objective, I responded. The divorce finalized quietly, without contention. Evelyn's guilty plea eliminated any dispute. I signed the papers as she began her prison sentence. Richard called with an update. Full restitution has been ordered. Your retirement funds are permanently protected. I purchased a smaller house in Norfolk, a single-story home. No spare bedrooms to clutter. No reminders of 23 wasted years. I began teaching part-time at Old Dominion University, a financial fraud detection course. Twice weekly. Real cases, real lessons. Trust, but verify. I told my students. Systems protect when people fail. Occasionally I receive letters from prison. Evelyn's remorse deepens with isolation. I don't respond, don't visit, don't forgive. Not cruelly, simply cleanly. The systems operate without emotion. Algorithms identify patterns. Mathematics reveals truth. I've learned to live the same way. 3 years later, my morning routine is established. A simple breakfast, automated market checks, commutes without specific destinations to avoid. Occasionally, I drive past the Sterling Marketing Group building. A new structure. A fresh start. 12 families having received restitution. I've learned to trust cautiously. Life continues. Orderly. Systematic. Protected. Betrayal occurs, theft happens, systems endure. And sometimes justice arrives through equations rather than emotions. I've made peace with that mathematical reality.